This is Eye on Africa, France 24's program focused on the continent. I'm Charlie James, filling in for Georgia Calvin Smith, and here's what's ahead. Nigerian protesters demand answers for deaths during the Lekki Toll booth crackdown. Hundreds gather at the scene 1 year on as police deny opening fire that day. Pro-civilian Sudanese leaders call for mass protests, while thousands of pro-military demonstrators camp around the clock outside the presidential palace. Thursday set to be a divisive day. And we take you to the Pan-African Film and Television Festival of Ouagadougou. Thousands have come to Burkina Faso's capital to celebrate films largely produced in Africa by Africans. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Nigerian police fired tear gas as hundreds of protesters gathered at the Lekki Toll Gate in Lagos. Wednesday's memorial car procession was in honor of those who died during protests there exactly 1 year ago. In October 2020, security forces opened fire on unarmed demonstrators at the toll gate. No one has been held accountable. Nicolas Chaman with the story.
Exactly 1 year after the deadly protests at the Lekki Toll Gate in Lagos, demonstrators returned near the site to express their anger. Amnesty International said at least 10 people were killed here last year, but the government has once again denied that security forces had opened fire. The demonstrations were launched last year to call for the end of SARS, a police unit accused of extortion and violence. On Wednesday, the police arrested several protesters. Many young Nigerians say that 1 year on, no progress has been made regarding police brutality.
It's right time for Nigerian youth to stand up for freedom, for liberty, for justice.
By shooting at us, you've messed with the wrong generation. And we're not going to be silent. We're going to talk. We're going to raise our voice. They're going to hear us. My father never fought for me. My mother never did. And I will fight for myself. I will fight for my young ones. I will fight for my children.
Nigeria set up a judicial panel last year to investigate the bloodshed and wider allegations of police abuses. Public hearings ended on Monday, and the findings should shortly be presented to the government.
Our correspondent in Lagos, Sam Olakoya, tells us more about the demands of loved ones who say police brutality needs to be addressed in Nigeria.
Last year's protest with the hashtag EndSARS called for the disbandment of a police unit called SARS. Some killings occurred during last year's protest. The most notable occurred at the Lekki Toll Plaza in Lagos, where the largest crowd gathered. There, soldiers fired at peaceful protesters who are singing Nigeria's national anthem and raising the country's flag. The military first denied the incident occurred, but it later admitted in the face of overwhelming evidence. The number of those killed is unknown, as the government has downplayed the incident. One government hospital said it received 99 corpses in the wake of the military and police crackdown against EndSARS protesters in Lagos. 1 year on, several of those shot at the Lekki Toll Plaza are calling for justice. Many of the victims cannot live a normal life as a result of the severe injuries they sustained. No one has been held accountable for the incident. For now, it is unclear whether or not they will get justice.
That was Sam Olakoya in Lagos. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan wrapped up his three-nation African tour on Wednesday with a visit to Nigeria. Erdogan met with his Nigerian counterpart, Muhammadu Buhari, in Abuja, where the pair discussed their shared fight against terrorism. For nearly 2 decades, Erdogan has been fostering ties with Africa, presenting Turkey as a fairer partner than the continent's former colonial powers and China. During the tour, he also visited Angola and Togo. A thousands-strong pro-military sit-in continues in the Sudanese capital, and Thursday is set to transform into a critical day of rival demonstrations. Since Saturday, pro-army protesters have camped outside the presidential palace, while groups pushing for civilian rule are planning their own counter-protests on Thursday. Our correspondent Bastien Renouy brings us more from Khartoum.
These protesters that you can see behind me have been demonstrating in downtown Khartoum for the past 5 days. They are asking for the resignation of Abdallah Hamdok, the Prime Minister, and some of them are even asking the military to step in to take the power to lead the transition to democracy. This Thursday protest will be organized countrywide, but everyone will be looking at the event unfolding here in Khartoum, since not only anti-government demonstrators will be taking to the street, but also pro-government supporters who want to say 2 years after the revolution that they still believe in the democratic transition. It will be a key moment for Sudanese politics, since I talked to Abdallah Hamdok's supporters on this Wednesday, and they said that they're afraid. They think that if their demonstration was outnumbered by the anti-government protesters, it could be a green light for the military to try to take power and to chase Abdallah Hamdok from the Prime Minister's office.
That was Bastien Ronwi in Khartoum. The Ethiopian military launched new airstrikes on the northern Tigray region Wednesday, the second round this week against rebel targets. Bombardments escalating a campaign against rebel forces in an almost one-year-old war. A morning airstrike targeted the center of the regional capital, Mekelle, a second 80 kilometers west, hitting what the government says is a military training center. A witness in Mekelle recounts her experience.
I was in the store and I didn't hear the jet coming. It was sudden. We were 2 people in the store and I was asleep on the floor as I heard the explosion. People picked me up and helped me out. As the explosions continued, I went out and saw someone I know, injured and on the ground.
Eswatini is Africa's last absolute monarchy, and protesters there have been demanding democracy for months. On Wednesday, a union leader said at least 80 people were injured as security forces cracked down. What started in June as peaceful demonstrations has been met with violence and at least 28 deaths. The landlocked country was called Swaziland until 2018, and King Mswati III has ruled since 1986. He is criticized for living a lavish lifestyle in one of the world's poorest countries. Zimbabwe's main opposition party says its leader has survived a second assassination attempt in 10 days. The Movement for Democratic Change Alliance claims a bullet ripped through Nelson Chamisa car window on Tuesday. Last week, the party said Chamisa's convoy was pelted with boulders by suspected ruling ZANU-PF party supporters. Political tensions have been rising in Zimbabwe in the run-up to the 2023 presidential elections, in which Chamisa is expected to challenge President Emerson Mnangagwa. Just 4% of Africa's population is currently fully vaccinated against COVID-19. In Gambia, the spread of misinformation over social media is making it hard for health workers to convince people to get the shot. Women in particular are hesitant, believing online lies that the vaccine will harm them.
In Serekunda, in western Gambia, women spend hours searching oysters, crabs and small fish. The produce feeds their families, and anything extra is sold on the market. Health workers are worried about these women because most of them are refusing to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Officials say the main reason is that the women have seen a lot of fake news videos.
I can't deny the fact that the virus exists, but I'm scared about the vaccine because of what people are saying about it.
Fake news videos have been spreading lies saying that the vaccine harms pregnant women like Lama Balo.
The people from the hospital came here and told us to go and take the vaccine. But what makes me scared is that I heard a lot about it. I saw some videos on my phone saying it was dangerous.
In the local hospital, health workers do their best to inform women about the advantages of the vaccine. They explain how the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, for example, tracked tens of thousands of immunized women. It found no difference in their pregnancy outcomes. But hospital employees are struggling to convey the message in Gambia.
We were almost the last to get the vaccines. So before the vaccine came, the misinformations reached us. And then it was really very difficult to get people on board.
Only 4% of Africa's population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Experts in Africa are concerned because they say that among those who are not vaccinated, they are seeing, like here in Gambia, a growing number of women.
And finally, the Pan-African Film and Television Festival of Ouagadougou is in full swing. It's one of Africa's largest such events and only accepts films for competition made by African filmmakers and chiefly produced on the continent. France 24 journalist Fatima Tawan is covering the event in Burkina Faso's capital. Earlier, she spoke to Senegalese producer and director Fatou Kande Senghor about her submission to the festival.
I'm between two generations, and I still feel I'm part of the youth. 60% of the Senegalese population are under 18, and they needed this. They've been keeping this inner thing in their chests, and they needed a platform to express themselves, and a TV series was perfect. So that's just what I did basically, is hand out a microphone and say, go on, tell me about what you want for the future.
The Pan-African Film and Television Festival of Ouagadougou continues through Saturday. That's all for this edition of Eye on Africa, but do stay with us here on France 24. More news and information up next.
France 24, your economy explained.
Liberté, égalité, actualité. France 24, a different point of view.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.